Hey guys, welcome back to HypnoVision Studios. Today we are going to discuss things of the workplace around AI because AI is indeed here. Whether we like it or not, it is here to stay. So we must learn how to adapt to these systems, work with these systems, work through these systems. And I also want to acknowledge that there are a lot of people who are afraid of AI. Artificial intelligence, as it's known, but as I've come to call it, actual imagination. And the reason for that is because it does take a bit of creative mental process to create stuff from scratch, right? So, one of the things for me 3 years ago when I started this was I took a lot of my personal journaling and I started to input it into AI because of the self reflection and introspection aspects of this. It allowed me to start to formulate a vision for myself, a vision to move forward. How do I get from point A to point B? But most importantly, like anything with self introspection, it means you have to be able to internalize something and be able to sit with it with your five sensory input. So when it comes to things of the workplace in the modern day, 2026, I have a few videos I'm going to share with everyone as this video moves on. And AI is not going to replace everyone's job. It's going to shift the jobs indeed. It's going to shift a lot of things. Matter of fact, check out this Atlas robot.
He heads Atlas Development. He has 2 mechanical engineering degrees from MIT and a mission to turn the robot into a productive worker on the factory floor. We watched as Atlas practiced sorting roof racks for the assembly line without human help.
So he's working autonomously.
Correct.
You're down here to see how Atlas works in the field,
Yep.
and you'll be showing Atlas off to your bosses at Hyundai?
Yeah.
Has been preparing for this moment for a year. We first met him and Atlas a month earlier at Boston Dynamics headquarters just outside.
Now, guys, as you can see, this robot is double jointed in many places from its elbows to its shoulders to its knees and even its waist, and its head can turn 360 degrees. This is a pretty fascinating robot. The Atlas robot by Boston Dynamics is pretty rad. It's both very exciting and scary at the same time. Not only can it flex the way it does, but when one robot learns a new skill, it automatically updates the rest of the fleet. So some of the pitfalls I see immediately with this is if you have proprietary protected work, right? So let's say that you have a specific process in an environment. The robot learns a new trade, then all of the rest of the robots are now able to do the same thing. But these other robots are in other environments. So yeah, that seems like a potential pitfall, but it is also very exciting at what these things can do because they can work uninterrupted. And these things are self-learning, which is both exciting and scary. But that's not all of it, right? Because that's a robot and it does a physical job. But what about the office environments? What about the other software environments? What about people who rely on software from day to day?
All jobs are gone.
All jobs are gone. So
Yeah.
Thank you for solving that.
employment, people are worried. All the blue collar labor is being done by robots. All data centers are being
Well,
built by robots.
the white collar labor will be the
First
first
to
to
go,
go because until you can move atoms, the thing that can be replaced first is anything that involves just digital. Like if it's digital, like if it involves tapping keys on a keyboard and moving a mouse, the computer can do that. The AI can do that.
When is all white collar work gone? By when?
Well, there's a lot of inertia. So even with AI at its current state, I'd say you're pretty close to being able to replace half of all jobs. But there's a lot of inertia. People just keep doing the same thing for quite some time, and there actually has to be a company that makes more use of AI that competes with a company that makes less use of AI, creating a forcing function for increased use of AI.
Right.
My best guess for how this will manifest is that prices will drop.
Yeah.
Prices in dollar terms are the ratio between the output of goods and services and the money supply.
Sure.
And this is a prediction I think some others have made, but I think governments will actually be pushing to increase money supply
Faster.
Yes. This is going to be a bumpy ride, and it's not like I know the answers here. But I have decided to look on the bright side, and I'd like to thank you guys for being an inspiration in this regard.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's built into everything at this point. I started prompting in late 2022, and it's 2026 now. So just about every piece of software that I own, when I open it now, there is some form of AI built into it. So I've learned over the past 3+ years to adapt and evolve with it, but I've also seen that curve coming. I've seen that wave before it even hit us. And to be honest, the government's had it a lot longer than the public has. Just like anything with the military, like they're 25, 30 years ahead of what is actually available to the general public. So let's talk about logic for a minute. AI taught me more about logic than any other human being on this planet. And the reason for that is because of computer science, right? The very basic understanding root baseline of any operating software, going back to the invention of it, is binary code, ones and zeros. Math is absolute. It is not emotional. Math is an algorithm. It is algorithmic. It has a synchronicity to it. So numbers don't lie. Words can. AI can do that, and it can do it much better. AI can read almost anything and is very scary at what it can do. Matter of fact, if you have Gemini, you can open up Google Lens through Gemini.
I see a man in a leather jacket and a cap on your laptop screen. It looks like a still frame from a video with the title Free Speech. Is there anything specific about him you'd like me to describe? Sure. Right behind the man in the video, there's an American flag prominently displayed. I can describe other details if you'd like. To the left of the man, there's a colorful decoration with what looks like yellow and purple streamers. Congratulations! That's a fantastic achievement. Is there anything else I can describe for your presentation?
And you can play I Spy with it, and it can name anything in your environment. It can also interact with you in the environment. It's very scary to be honest with you guys. Now, where AI is here, whether we like it or we don't like it, it is here. And we must learn to work with it, work through it, and also live with it. You know, I think back about different technological breakthroughs, whether it's, going through the industrial age or whether it was the first computer replacing typewriters. There has always been these leaps in technology, whether it was physical or electronic, where people resisted, right? Because not everyone can see how it could benefit them in the long run. And yes, every time something like this happened, it displaced jobs. It also eliminated some tasks, but it also created places for new tasks. So, I can imagine a person using a typewriter would be so hesitant of a computer because there's a lot to learn with using a computer. But it's much more efficient than a typewriter. And it's much more efficient using an email than sending a letter and handwriting a letter. But those forms of communication, they're not obsolete in the terms of being able to write yourself is still a skill. It is still something that is very valuable because the human condition is not artificial. It is actually a real thing. Every time there's a major breakthrough in something that could change the way that people live, There's going to be people for it, there's going to be people against it, and there's going to be people on the fence. Some people have to be convinced that this is something that is actually beneficial. But one way or the other, guys, AI is here, and I've been using it for 3 years. I built a website, and I've already started making sales on my website. And the website was built using AI. Most of the merchandise on that store was created using AI. And a lot of these videos have been assisted by using AI. Now, the major theme through all of this is my imagination, or actual imagination. So it goes without saying, guys, your wonderful human imagination is the most creative force on this planet. You know, it's sad to say that I wish it wasn't that way. I wish it didn't have to be that way. For someone like me who is very abstract in thinking, I'll give you a few examples. This room, I did all the drywall. I'd never done drywall before until I did this room. Matter of fact, if I spun the camera around, this whole downstairs has now been done with drywall. The room next door to my studio was done in drywall. Even the ceilings, I did all the work myself. Now, I am the type of person who enjoys taking things apart and putting them back together so I can understand the inner workings of it. So it was only fitting at some point in my life, I would take that inward journey into myself, that introverted journey, if you want to call it that, and learn how my own inner self works, the kingdom within, as so wisely said by Jesus. But when you work alone, you have to get creative, right? Because you only got two hands. And for example, hanging an 8-foot sheet of drywall is almost impossible to hold up by yourself. Literal alone, grab a drill, grab a screw, and make sure everything's in place before you start drilling things in. So you have to be creative and create the solution or create the assist in getting something done. Now, there are parts of this down here that I had to absolutely have help, but so much of this down here was done by myself. And I've always been that way my entire life. Everything that I have ever applied myself to, I go fully committed into it. And I will almost get to an obsession over something until I can master the skill, until I can perfect the skill. So, for example of self-promotion, with my DJ business, when people come to me, I often hear, "You're the professional, and that's why I trust you." So when I sit down with clients, I listen. I want to understand what it is that they need and how I can best facilitate that for them. They are telling me something from their imagination. They are telling me something that is visual, that is inside of their mind. And it also is emotional, right? Because weddings and events do require emotion. So having some emotional maturity, but also knowing when to let loose, when is appropriate times for different things to happen. And when it comes to booking and things like that, I try my best to understand how the best way I can facilitate another person's needs and go above and beyond. And so it's never been about trying to get the most money out of people when they call me. It has always been about how well can I perform this task and be creative in the process of doing this. So never underestimate your imagination. It is yours to create with. You don't need approval from other people, but yes, in certain situations, you do have to respect the chain of command, even if it is broken, reality based. And with that, guys, I'll see you on the next one.